live with Catherine Ann Olson. Hi, Catherine. How you doing?
I am not too bad. I'm off for the weekend, which means that everything in life is pretty good.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been doing this freelancing thing for a while now, so I don't have a regular day job anymore. So
I
I'm
kind
too
of
old.
envy that.
Well, you have to work. I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm regularly making decent money doing it. So it gives me time, which is something I think is super. That's the thing, right? I'm always hustling, so I'm never not working exactly, but at the same time, I'm always going forward. I'm always going for things, So it kind of balances out in some really really fun ways. But I do have a side gig. Like I work at for a hockey team, like a
Oh, fun.
national hockey team, National Hockey League team. I work for the Flames. So tomorrow I work at McMahon Stadium, and then on Sunday I work at for the football. And Sunday I think it's Nickelback. I'm listening to. That's
I
my
have a
life.
friend who does instant replay work for local sports teams, and he actually last year got to do it for the Super Bowl.
Nice. It's always fun. It's always fun to do shit like that, right? So yeah. So you work to create the life you want. That's kind of how I believe it to be. You try to make things happen. I'm going to be in Calgary longer than I planned. I have 3,400 more comics to sell. I've sold 160. That's a start, but it's going to take some more work than that.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm actually planning on moving back to Massachusetts in just under 100 days now. And so I'm feeling the financial pressure of getting everything together to move all the way.
Okay, so I've gotten ridiculously used to moving. Like I can do it like that now. Like legit. It's not hard. Like I'm very good at being thorough. I'm very good at making sure that all the stuff that's important is taken care of. Um, it's just how it goes. It's gotten to the point that you could evict me if you gave me 3 days notice. I'd be fine. And that's a weird. And it's not because I've gone through that experience, but I so know what to do. It's so easy for me.
Well, I remember back when I was 21 and 22, I was a missionary, and we would literally get 3 days' notice at the most as to where we were moving to a different city. And I had to live out of basically 2 suitcases and a laundry
Yeah.
hamper.
You don't need much. Like honestly, if you do that life, like you realize how little you actually need.
Yeah, I'm kind of going through that process with my closet right now. But the main thing is that I have said for years, as long as I can take my piano, I will move anywhere.
That's
The piano
fair.
is
No,
quite difficult to move.
so I've cut my comics. So I've started to cut my comics. So I have 5,000 comics. Just to give you an idea, the exact number I have. I'm keeping 1,500. I wanted to put this in perspective, right? That's 5 long boxes worth.
Yeah.
Right? That's 5 long boxes worth. And the rest I'm trying to get rid of. And I could I could rush it out. Like I could go to a comic shop, go, hey, here's a few. Like there's some that are valuable, but for the most part, like comic shops are looking for a very specific kind of issue. Or I can sell them where I think I can get my fair worth, but that takes much longer to do.
Yeah.
Right. So I've sold some on eBay. I've sold some locally. I'm gonna continue the local route next month. Once I'm taking care of things I got to take care of next week. So, but it is what it is, and it's one of those things where I got this nailed down, and I'm not sure that's a good or a bad thing, but it's taught me resiliency.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I think that the phrase we'd use from Stephen King is needful things, and sometimes those can be good things.
Yeah. No, it's just that what matters in this life. I figured out wow, this really comes down to just 2 things: doing what you love with people you love. The rest does not matter. The rest does not matter. And I just realized I forgot to plug in my computer.
Good thing to discover now rather than later when it just shuts off.
I'm a trained motherfucking professional here. So while I do this, yeah, no, it's just, it sounds to me like, are you excited to go back to Boston?
Unspeakably so. It's mostly like I've been wanting to go home for years and years, and Utah, for all the good it's done me, has never felt like home.
It would feel, I imagine it would feel, so I lived in northern Arizona.
Mhm.
So I have a little bit of an idea what it probably felt like for you. And one of the things, I'm just plugging this in because, you know, trained motherfucking professional right here. They gave me an award for this, you know, once upon a time. They gave me an award. Hold on a sec here. There we go.
Huzzah.
So, folks, I just plugged in my computer on live stream because I am awesome and made of cheese. But no, to put this in perspective, it's very one-track minded in a lot of ways, and it takes some getting used to, especially if you. So I don't know if you're a biblical person, but there's the phrase that came to mind when I lived in Utah or northern Arizona, which is similar-ish enough. It's no knock to anybody there. They have their own way of doing things, and I'm not gonna belittle anyone's choices, but new wine can exist in an old skin. And if you are used to a certain way of thinking, you can't just undo all that. And I've talked to people who have left Mormon communities too. And this is one of those. That's one of the big things is that expectation of who and what they are. That is always that's a struggle in those communities because you're expected to play a certain role, and you can't necessarily do it. You're just not built that way.
Well, so my church is supposed to be kind of the same worldwide, and just like being anywhere in a different state from the one that you're in as home, there is just a cultural shift that you have to get used to. I mean, frankly, I'm a lot more liberal than a lot of my friends out here. I have different perspectives on being pro-choice, on certain LGBTQ rights. I mean, for crying out loud, I work at the Trevor Project as a crisis counselor and am a lot more open to, you know, the queer experience and trying to be more of a better neighbor to them and that sort of thing. And sometimes that is not always the case with some of my friends in Utah, and luckily a lot of mine are of the same mind as me. But I grew up as a Boston Mormon. I mean, Mitt Romney was one of the leaders in my local area as a member of this church, and so I'm used to, you know, being one of 6 people in my entire town who was actually a member of my church, and now it's like every
it goes
city is the opposite.
No, I mean I totally get that. It's a weird thing. I like variety, like in cities. Like I don't mind that there are people. Like, people can believe what they want to believe. Really, I don't care. I really don't. But I have found it is much better when there is a variety of beliefs in the same place. And because what happens there is it forces people to understand each other in a good way.
Well, something that kind of drives me crazy about local politics is there is a kind of big push to have people all vote in favor of conservative values. And I'm like, well, yes, that's wonderful for the people who want to have those. And there are people on the opposite end of the spectrum who have just as valid values. And there should be that plurality, but sometimes it's seen as too much of a polarizing issue.
Well, it's so this is okay. So we're going to talk just strictly from a political end of things. Just strictly from a political end of things. For the most part, not always, but for the most part, people make the best choices based on what suits them. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing, right? So it's very much a thing, right? It's very much a thing where you have to understand that going in, but also you got to understand that everybody has different goals, different ideas, different ways of doing things. And really, as long as nobody's hurting anybody, right, there's no crime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's it. And you got to kind of accept that, whether it's a conservative bent, a liberal bent, somewhere in between that bent, which in a more perfect world, that's kind of where I'd like things. But that's everywhere's different, and I find in communities like that, it's very much the way the church goes.
Mhm.
Everybody follows. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I remember one of the other things I did while sorry, while living out here is I was actually a hosting missionary at church headquarters, which means that I gave tours to people who were curious about, what the church was like and the history and that sort of thing. And something I got a lot was, so does the church tell you to vote Republican, or is that just a thing? And I kind of pulled out all of these statistics about, the different demographics and how certain elections have gone, and the fact that the church doesn't tell us anything about who to vote for. It says to do your research and vote according to your conscience. And so I've always kind of gone along with that idea. And
Mhm.
so people see Utah as a very red state, and it admittedly is, but it is still governed by a plurality of ideas.
Oh, always, and it always will be. Like there, it's just right. Even like, so I was in a predominantly Mormon community until like for 2 years. There were still other ideas in the
Yeah.
city. There, are, I mean, you don't, but I mean, there is definitely, and this is what I will say is, there's definitely a tide where generally everybody is, right? And I think it's the nature. Like I said, when you live in a small town like that, it's the nature. It's the nature of the expectations of the town
Mhm.
that people kind of play their role that way. Does that make sense?
I totally see what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely would see it there, but I don't think it would. But this is where I would just tell people it wouldn't just be a Mormon community that did this, right? It would be any community that has such an influence in a place.
Mhm.
It just it happens. It just would happen. I don't really think it matters who or what's believed in. You just have when you have that much support in one. That's why I like multiple ideas
Yeah.
in a place, because when you have multiple ideas in a place, you're kind of forced to understand each other, because you got now everybody's kind of got a level playing field. If
Mhm.
even if one has a bit more say than all the others, it's usually just by a bit, and it's not like so ginormous that it's just like, hey, we got. But in communities where you have one ideology just overwhelm, right? Overwhelm, that's it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And you have to figure out your role in those places sometimes. And that can be very uncomfortable. And even for people who do believe in those things as well, because it's again, new wine, old skin.
Mhm.
Right? Got you
Anyway,
thinking there. Got you
switching
think-
topics some more.
no, it's all good. It's all good. But I mean, you're excited to
My
go back.
roommate is much better at talking about nothing but politics, but she minored in political science.
Yeah, no, like I said, I don't think that. The only thing I would say is I don't think this is necessarily entirely a political discussion. This is an
Yeah.
honest. This is an honest. When people have a certain overwhelming majority, there's
Mhm.
a tendency to. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be politics. It can be religion. It can be hell. It could be baseball, right? It doesn't really fucking matter, right?
I can't relate to that being from Boston, not at all.
Not at all. That's why I picked them. Like, I mean, the Reds. I mean, all I gotta do is mention the Yankees, and you're like, fucking Yankees, fucking Yankees.
Watch your language. It's the damn Yankees. It's the musical.
Yes, exactly, exactly, right. So, but that's just it. Right? We all have. It doesn't matter what the spectrum is of your ideas. We all have them,
Mhm.
and it's important to understand that, because if you have that understanding, you can realize A, you're not perfect, and B, you can listen to other people.
Yeah, I really do think that's important because if we have that awareness of our own imperfections and kind of juxtapose that against the other perceived imperfections that other people can have, I feel like it's able to kind of open up a more equitable discourse on
Yeah.
what we need in general to work as different communities working for the same goals.
Well, that's it, right? And again, and the other thing is you don't always have to agree. Like that's not what this is about. It's not about agreement. It's about compromise,
Yeah.
right? If there's a room to compromise, do it,
Yep.
right? You don't need, again, we don't need a perfect system. Just can everybody get along? And if everybody can, great. But if everybody can't, then that's when things need to change.
Agreed.
Yeah, right. That's it. That's it. So, on other things. So you wanted to go home for a long time. So what
Yeah.
did you miss? So what did you miss the most about Boston?
Other than the Red Sox.
The Red Sox don't really. I mean, it doesn't do it for me. I feel there's a. I could say I miss the Flames because I live in Calgary right now, but also there's a conflict of interest. I kind of get paid by them, so it's like yeah, you're right. So, what do
Well,
you?
I'll tell you the quote that my best friend's husband made a couple of years ago that I pretty much think is gospel truth. He said, "If you ever have a problem to fix with Catherine, what you need to do is put her in some standing water, meaning take her to the beach, take her to the ocean. She will feel much better after you do so."
Okay.
So, like, when I go visit, they take me to, like, the Atlantic Ocean, or we go to, like, Winnipesaukee, or we're, like, off to some random reservoir to just kind of walk around, and we've been to the Caribbean together twice now. So I am looking forward to being on the coast.
Did you surf?
I do not surf, but I do sailing, kayaking, and I've done paddle boarding twice.
Yeah, that sounds like the life.
Yeah,
that sounds like life. So that excites you the most, and
yeah.
probably the friends and family too. After all these years.
Well, I don't have family back there right now, but I definitely do have friends out there, both from church and from school and stuff like that.
So it sounds like you got it pretty good.
Yeah,
it sounds like you got
it's going to be kind of exciting because I grew up in Weston and in Lincoln, which are two places fairly close to Boston. Whereas I'm moving back to Lowell, which is kind of up by the New Hampshire border.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going back to my home state, but I'm going to a place where I really have to discover what I like about the area.
Mm-hmm. No, it's all good. I get that. I see. For me, I'm still kind of looking for that. That's kind of my whole thing. I came back to Calgary to reconnect with people, and I found that was a more difficult process than I have. So I kind of changed my focus a little bit. It's like, okay, I can't get what was. What about what is?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what can I get that's important here? Because that's the interesting thing, right? And so it's gonna be fun. Like I'm gonna enjoy like however long I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still planning on going on the road. I'm still planning to go on my Crazy West World Tour, right? I'm gonna have "Carry On My Wayward Son" going on.
Maybe hopefully not too much like the Dean and Sam Winchester kind of Carry On, but
no. Supernatural fan?
I tried to get into it and then was friends with someone who was having one of those parasocial manias where you think that you're like emotionally connected to one of the actors and is obsessed with them, and it killed the joy for me.
Just too passionate.
So I'd like to watch all of it someday now that I don't talk to that person anymore, but for now I'm just like don't want to get involved.
No, I get that. Yeah, no, I'm working on how do I, like I said, like I'm kind of trying to figure out where that place is in the world. But at the same time, I'm also going to be like, I'm taking my sister's advice, and it is enjoy the time you have with the people you have here now, because they could be gone like that. But also just to open some doors and see where it leads you. Have some courage. Go out there and go out on the limb and see what it gets you.
Well, so one of the things that I do out here in Utah is I'm a reviewer and editor and board member for a nonprofit called Front Row Reviewers. And we do a lot of local marketing for arts projects. We do national things, everything in between. And it's largely been out here in the West. And I'm going to be trying to kind of expand it to the East Coast. We've got a couple of people in Massachusetts already, but it's nowhere as established as it is here, where people like ask for me by name to come to their productions or like have me do interviews with people at the symphony. So it's going to be an entirely new way of exploring what I'm already good at.
Yeah, it sounds like Boston's gonna be ready for you. It's gonna be different, I think, than you expect. Like one thing I've learned about also the other thing. This is my third time in Calgary. Is it's always different. It's always different every time you're here. It leads into different places, different directions, and you just got to kind of roll with it.
Well, I remember when I lived in California, it was as a Spanish-speaking missionary who worked exclusively basically with the immigrant population. And I went there a couple of years ago and stayed in the exact same cities, and it was completely different dynamic to be there as a white girl talking to white people.
Yes. Oh yeah, it can happen, right? It just every time you go, it changes. Like we the place in our mind and the place that actually is aren't usually quite the same thing. And when we go away from it for a extended period of time, and we come back, it's different.
Have you ever watched Doctor Who? I can't remember.
No.
So there's a kids spin-off, and it's a time and space travel show. And there's this one episode of one of the kids spin-offs where they have the entire world is 1 second ahead of where they're frozen in time. And that's kind of what I think of as memories, because I mean, I remember being in love with the art scene in Boston because I grew up there as a violinist and as a pianist and as a vocalist. And so I know very well, all the advantages of growing up in such an arts rich place. But now I'm an adult and I have a completely different perspective on it. So I feel like Boston, as I remember it from childhood through my college years, is going to be something that is an entirely different entity to how I see it now. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the ride.
Yep.
So what else is going on with you? What other plans for world domination do you got?
Well, I am trying to get a draft of a novel going, and it is unexpectedly hard because I'm, first of all, trying to decide really which projects that I'm in development on I want to actually focus on, and then whether or not I have the right tone for what I want to focus on. Like, I have a murder mystery that I'm planning on doing. Oh, finally got my voice back. Sometimes it comes and goes, but I've got this entire universe basically that dumped into my head one Thursday night and told me exactly the story that it wanted me to tell in the universe. And I've got a lot of research that I've had to do. I've got a lot of things that have come to me in terms of influence on that. But I keep on thinking, no, this is not the way this story should be told. Okay, what do I need to do to tell it a different way? And then I've got my nephews who are begging me to write my dragon epic.
Okay. So let's see if would you like a little input from the outside looking in?
Sure.
Okay. So why don't you feel like you're telling the story right?
I feel like the voice is not quite the narrative style that I've got when I pictured it in my head and the story is told to me, it's in a very specific kind of laid out manner, and getting that to dump into the voice of one of the characters or a group of characters who are narrating the story, it just isn't there yet. And this is something that's been a problem for me in the past. I have to try several times to actually find the narrative. Plus, my roommate always claims that all of my characters are like snarky Bostonian, which is a problem, but I'm working on that.
Why is that a problem?
Because other than my book where they are literally all snarky Bostonians, like I've got a Greek demigoddess, I have a person from Central America, they can't all sound like they love the Boston Red Sox.
Why not?
Because
see, no, not necessarily. Listen, a Greek goddess bitching about the Yankees would personally be hilarious. Okay? See, right there is why it's okay. Right there is why it's okay. So, do you want to hear a big secret I learned in the last few months?
Sure.
The stories we write are our stories.
Mm-hmm.
We just tell them in ways that everybody else can kind of relate to. But really, when we sit there, if we unpeel back all the layers of everything we write, it's about us and where we are today. So yes, you can have a Bostonian girl or a goddess that bitches about the Yankees, but might be okay with the Cubs. Like, you know what? I'm okay with the Cubs. I am okay with the
Cubs are great.
Cubs are great. Yeah, see, exactly. Right? And then maybe the what was the other guy? Sorry, I lost track of the other guy. Not the Greek goddess, the other person like you had.
The Central American person who was, best friends with the Greek goddess since childhood because she kept on surviving things like war and famine. And when the god of death showed up to take away various other people, she was still around. And she's like, you know what? let's just get you out of here, got her into the United States, and they settled in this town where the living and the dead happen to have equal civil rights.
Okay. So your Central American character can fucking love the Yankees. That's the difference. Can be like the turncoat, right? Can be just like be the contrarian. You know, I fucking like the Yankees. And then the Greek guy says, "I can't believe I saved your life. Fuck those guys." Right?
Oh
Right?
my gosh.
Yeah, right. See, and
This
see,
is like the best thing I've ever heard.
see again. You're talking about tone and narrative. No, fuck that. Worry like you. What do you care about right now? I'm writing a novel right now. My novel is about a hitman that's trying to kill evil versions of the Knights of the Round. Okay. But it's a story about also the inner monsters and demons she has to overcome. And why do I care about that? I care about that because the question I ask myself sometimes with the choices I've made in my life is, am I a good person? I care about that. So I'm writing about it, right? I'm not worried about who I sound like. I'm not worried. I don't give a shit about that because that's not what this is about. This is about telling a story I care about. Right? Don't get in the way of your you sounds like you have a fantastic idea and you got a rare gift where most of it is already in your head. You know where you're going with it. So why not just trust in the person writing the story and let yourself have some fun with it, right? Let's see how many fucking Yankee jokes you could throw in there, right? That's just for shits and giggles, right?
I have a very close friend who is a huge Yankees fan, and I tell. So, side note, I am a Sunday school teacher for 14-year-olds. And they recently were coming to Sunday school and just complaining about how much they hated their rivals who had just knocked them out of the state championships for baseball. And I turned to them and said, if I can love a Yankees fan, you can be loving towards these crap people who decided to knock you out of the championship. And they were like, awesome. Wow, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And I'm like, yeah, take it.
Take it, that's right. So
now I have to turn to my Yankees fan and be like, my friend Josh needs me to consult you on what's great about the Yankees. Help.
Yeah, you don't even need that. You be contrarian. You know what you despise about them, right? Ask yourself, why would anybody love that? And that's all you really got to do.
Especially since
right, that's it. That's all you got to do, and you can have an entertaining dialogue with yourself, right, with your characters.
Was the Red Sox fan in this relationship? She is one of the goddesses of fate, and so she knows how things in the overall big picture are supposed to turn out, and yet she has this fickle team, the Red Sox, who are like the best, except sometimes they're utterly crap, and the cause of this crap is the Yankees. And the person she's so obsessed with is a Yankees fan.
So the goddess of fate has a sense of humor in your story. So there you go. So in a perverse one, okay? You already have this in your story. So why are you fighting this so hard?
Because I've got anxiety about sucking.
So what if you suck? And I say this like, okay, look, I draw. I've been drawing for 3 years, okay? I sucked when I started. But you know what I said? Who cares? And the grand scheme is nobody cares. Right? Right? Nobody gives a fuck. And you know what? That's a wonderful freedom. Right? This is not like we all have goals. Like you want to get read by as many people as possible. You want to make your zillions and zillions and all that other wonderful blah blah blah. However you want to do this, okay? So the biggest challenge the biggest challenge we all have is, okay, instead of asking yourself, okay, I got all these things I got to figure out and overthink about in my story, because fucking you already got the story. It's not like it's that much rocket science. You don't know, you know where to go and you know how you're going to get there. Okay, fine, fuck it, you know that. So you're creating new problems for yourself. And why are you creating the new problems for yourself? Who cares? You have a gift. You have a story so crystal clear. I've had one of those. They're great. You don't have to work hard. It just comes so easy. And it's fantastic. If you have one of those, I know this is a crazy thought from me to you. I know this sounds a little nuts, but why not enjoy it? Why not just go out there and just listen? Okay, Remember kindergarten class? Kindergarten. I remember my first art lesson from kindergarten. Right? We took marbles and we dipped them in paint and we rolled them on this paper and they looked beautiful because of the marble texture. Think of your first draft as this, your marble texture. It doesn't matter how bad you fuck it up. It doesn't matter. It's for you.
Yeah. And if it has to change, that's the next draft.
That's draft 2. Draft 2, 3, 4. Like when you get to somewhere in there, then you start giving a fuck about some of this other shit. Right? That's fine. Right? The biggest challenge you're going to have in your life is you got to have an honest assessment of who you are and who you're not. So try to be honest about who you are. And don't worry about what anybody else says or thinks or whatever. Fuck them. They don't count. You're the one that has to live with who you are. Right? Worry about looking at yourself in the mirror and being okay with what you see first. Then you can figure out like how to love everybody else. Because that you can't do one without the other. So the thing is with you got to work. You got to deal with the fact that you got all these little anxieties of, well, what if I suck? So what if you suck? Did you have fun? I mean, this is the thing. Give yourself permission to fail. Give yourself permission to try. And let what happens. You might have a fucking home run. It sounds like it. Right? It sounds
like you brought the Yankees up, the Red Sox, and now you're telling me I have a fucking home run.
That's right. Damn right. We're doing a baseball analogy in this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I don't give a shit. Look.
I'm like, I need a sign that just says right a effing home run now. Put up
No. So, do you know the player you need to model yourself after? This is the player you need to model. And you're going to hate this because he was a Yankee. Babe Ruth.
He was a Red Sox before he was a Yankee, and that's the problem.
Okay. Then even better. Then you got no excuses. So, here's the thing about Babe Ruth. So, Babe Ruth swung at every pitch. Almost. He didn't give a fuck. Now, here's the thing. He's got more strikeouts than anybody else. This is true. He also has one of the highest home run totals in history.
Because that man swung at everything.
He swung at everything. He didn't give a flying fuck what was in front of him. And he could hit anything, too. So that was the thing, right? You, listen, think of your story like a pitch. Just swing the bat. Don't worry when you get a single, double, triple. You strike out, you bunt. Who cares? Swing the fucking bat. Look, this isn't just true of writing. It's true with dating. It's true with business. It's true with opportunities. It's everything. The things you want in this life are there if you're willing to go for them. But you got to want them. And you got to be really honest about what you want. Are you willing to do the work required to get to those things? The answer is yes, and you'll get them. May not be right away, but you'll get them.
Yeah.
Right? So don't hamstring yourself. Is basically what I'm telling you. Don't look at yourself and go, well, I don't know about you. Fuck that. Right. You don't have time for that kind of second guessing. And when you get to draft 3, draft 4, when you want to really polish it and make it a fine-tuned wine, right? Okay, maybe you need one character that doesn't have a Bostonian accent. Make him from like Chicago or Detroit, because no one gives a fuck about Detroit, or Buffalo, or whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Tell your story. Let it out. Do it in a way, and don't worry about who or who doesn't. I mean, it's always nice when people want to see what you got. But at least at first, it's not about that at all. It's about you. Did you do everything? This isn't just writing. This is everything. The challenge is this. Did you do everything you know to do to try? If the answer is yes, then there's nothing else you could have done. And just accept it. Right? That sounds, I know, really, really easy. It's not. Right? Sometimes
I don't expect any of this to be easy, but
no. But some people say you sound so fucking no. So here's the thing, right? That's how you gotta look at this. You have a story worth telling. So tell your story. Then overthink it to death afterwards. Right? Don't be afraid to tell your story. And dare I say, don't be afraid to enjoy your story. So listen, like chapter 19, I'm literally having a main character dive bomb and shoot a warden full of dino poop just because I can. Because why the fuck not? I'm a silly guy. Why not make this fun? Right? Enjoy the journey. It doesn't have to go to the destination you hope for. It's nice if it does, but for the most part, right? But life very rarely works out that way, and that's fine too. Let yourself go with the ride. Let yourself deal with the things you need to deal with, and let whatever else happens happen.
Okay, I'm going to try that.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. I did not come on here expecting a therapy session, which is honestly what this started to feel like, because I'm like, I'm actually having emotional healing through this. I'm like, I can totally do this. I don't
You
have
totally
to.
can.
I have this thing on my desktop that says, not only can you do it, you have done it, and I should pay attention to that more.
I technically have 13 rules. Yes, see, YS Books, you can do it. YS Books is totally right. You can totally do it, Catherine.
I was not paying attention to the chat, and to the degree that I didn't realize there was one. Hello,
Yes.
books person. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Your job. So, one of my favorite quotes from Star Trek: The Next Generation is from Captain Picard to Mr. Data, and he goes, "Mr. Data, it is possible to do everything correctly and still lose. Catch is, if you don't do the correct things correctly, you're guaranteed to lose." Right? Your job in everything you do is to do the best you can to get out of your own way. It's rule 5. Get out of your own way. Right? When this show was nominated for the runner and I dealt with my imposter syndrome, that was the rule that came into being. Get out of your own way. Let yourself enjoy the good. Let yourself go through the bad. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. It's part of the process. And you can let it get to you, or you can do work within those processes, no matter what they are. That's it. It's not, your job is just to show up and do the best you can. That's it. If you can do that and you can look in the mirror and say, you did that, you're good. It doesn't matter what it looks like to the outside. You're good. Just always ask that question. Was there anything else I could have done? If the answer is no, you did your best. And I don't care what it looks like, Catherine, you did good.
Now I have a very random question for you.
Oh, okay.
Are you familiar with the book Healthy as Fuck?
No.
So it's by this lady named Una Duncan, and I read it last year just because I was like, okay, the title makes it interesting to me. And the first thing that she really says in this book is take a look at yourself, bonus points if you do it without judgment. And I'm like, that was one of the things that had never occurred to me, was to just do an honest assessment without ever saying, well, I notice, first of all, that when I look at my body, I have big waist, or I have a butt that sticks out too far, that sort of thing. I was just like, okay, this is what my body looks like. And it's actually started a whole thing with me. But one of her chapters is about the habit of breaking up with your bullshit.
Yep.
And I feel like this kind of the step 5 thing is completely, in terms of getting out of your own way, it is breaking up with your bullshit.
Yeah, look, we all have ideas of how the world works. And then there's how the world really works. Right? That's the truth. We have an idea. We all live in a bubble of a world. All of us, doesn't matter who we are, that we think everybody else lives in. We don't. Everybody has a different bubble and a different world. And the world itself has its own bubble and its own rules. So you got to look at yourself, try to look at yourself as honestly as you can. Now, it's not always easy, because no matter how well-intentioned you are, you're always going to have a little bit of bias.
Oh, yeah.
Always. Like, you can't escape that completely. But if you're honest enough to own that, you can be critical in a good way. And not just because we can be both are like we can inflate our bullshit in the sense of I am the greatest thing ever. I am phenomenal in every way, and I can talk about myself in the third person and make everybody laugh. How can be obnoxious, much like Doctor Doom, or I can go the other way. I can think that I am the worst person on the planet. I can think I'm a scumbag. I can think all these things. Neither that's true. Right? Neither aspect of that is true. I'm a human being doing the best he can. That's it. No more, no less. Right? No more, no less. That is it. And all anybody can, and I'm doing all I'm doing all anybody can ask me to do. Right? Now I'm making decisions. I have goals. I am trying my best to achieve those goals, and these are my objectives. But I don't make any bones about those things. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm pretty upfront with that shit. I don't lie to anybody about it. So that's it. You give me those things, I'm good with you. I don't, and I say this in like the best way. I don't care what else you do. You let me do my thing, I'll let you do yours. That's it. Right. And that is life in general. That's all I want. But that is the thing. That is an honest assessment, right? There's no, like, when you get right down to it, I want to go do certain things and go to certain places. So there's a process to getting there. So my job then is to understand that process the best I can and do it to the best of my abilities. That is it. That is the whole of my job. The rest of it, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe I don't know everything. I'm not going to condemn myself for it. I can only do what I know how to do. That's it. Right?
It's kind of empowering not knowing everything because you have room for learning things.
Oh, absolutely. That's like, we all can grow. But that's the thing. When something doesn't work out, there's a chance to learn from it. Right? There's a chance to learn from it. There's a chance to have a dialogue or a listening with at least yourself. Right? And when you have those opportunities, right, you can learn something from it. What could I have done better? Right? Or, or I mean that's what you hope happens anyway. But I mean, that's it. But again, all of this is just going out on a limb, enjoying the journey, enjoying the process. You kind of fail a little bit in that process. Exactly. YS Books. What's the worst that can happen? Right? You have to let yourself, it's okay to fail. You'll change. And for the better, ironically enough, because you'll learn something from it. Or you'll succeed and you'll change and you'll go to a place you never imagined existed. That sometimes frightens people more than the other. But because it's easy to get comfortable in the familiar. Right? It takes guts. Going out for what you truly want requires stepping into the unknown. So you can't second guess yourself. You can't overthink it. It will not.
But I'm so good at second guessing myself. It's like a professional career.
Most people are. One of my clients, I'm making a show, and one of my clients, we will come up with like a scene. Okay, just say this, and we'll start going, and then she'll start, and you can watch it in her. She just starts overthinking. Sometimes she'll overthink the scene. I'm like, no, I'm serious. It really is this simple, right? This is it's that simple sometimes. I think we're so used to, like, maybe televisions would brainwash us into this shit, but we expect it to be this magical obstacle or thing. No, it's just, why don't you just go up to somebody and just ask them, hey, yo, can I do this? Sometimes you'll hear it and they'll think about it for a second. They'll say, yeah, sure. Why not? Right? Why not? Life's about the chances you take. It's not about the things you don't. So don't talk yourself out of the things you want to do by second guessing yourself about them.
Cool.
You're like, I got nothing.
No, I'm just like, okay, well, what can I do to follow up on that? Because it's like a manifesto.
Okay, what do you want?
I don't know. I'm just like, that was pretty effing profound.
No. It just no. What I mean is, if you want the way to capitalize on this, have a vision of where you want to be. See, my vision right now is I have this me in this very, very, very like ice cream-esque van. I may or may not have an ice cream horn. Right. I may or may not. And I will be traveling down, and I will just be meeting some of the most wonderful people I've met doing the show. I have a ice cream date in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, under some magical train tracks. I have a San Diego surf lesson at some point. I have a band in Colorado I got to meet. I got a gal in Texas I'm supposed to skydive into jelly beans with. That's the vision. How do I get there? Get my driver's license, get a vehicle, set dates, get sponsors, build what I'm working on, launch my Patreon, which I've done, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to help me, yeah, which I have done. Keep creating, keep hustling, keep doing. There are some days I work 12 hours a day. Some days I work 3. It's like freelancing is wonderful that way. And the thing is, it's all about, no matter how little or how much I do in the day, I'm always doing a little more to achieve the vision I've set out for myself. Exactly why this book's one foot from the other. That's it. It's not big steps, it's little steps the whole way through. It's about putting that first step, and that second step, and that third step, and that fourth step, and the fifth step. And it's about going for those things you want. Like, you're here once, as far as I know. I truly, my personal opinion is reincarnation truly would be hell, because then you'd be coming back here again and again and again and again. I think there comes a point, but that's my own belief. Some people love it. The idea, cool. Not here to debate it. But one of the things is, I know for sure I'm here once. So I can spend my life doing what other people expect of me, or I can do what I can expect of myself. And as I've gotten older, I've realized I really don't need anyone's approval. Doesn't matter how terrifying of a man I am, or a woman, or anybody who goes into this world. Our benefit is the impact we make, by and large, doesn't last forever. Right? So you're free to do what you please in this life. That's a gift.
Yeah.
That's a gift. So don't let yourself have a vision for what you want, Miss Catherine. I know that'll be involved you cussing out the Yankees. I know that.
No, actually, I have a very clear vision of what I want, which is, I remember 2015, I was on a cruise and I had to write one more chapter before submitting my full draft to the publisher that had just picked up my book. And I was writing this off the coast of Morocco with very little cares in the world other than this thing. And I'm like, I want to be always off the coast of something. Or as one of my friends said, always on the brink of an adventure and ready to move forward to my success.
Then don't second guess yourself, and you'll get it.
Yeah. And I knew you both a Yankees fan.
Yes, that Yankees fan had wisdom. You should listen to. I know it's the goddamn Yankees, but sometimes when they're right there, they didn't win as much as they did without a reason, you know. So that's the thing. You go do it. I know you can, and I'm going to be happy for you when you get there. Honestly, do you believe it?
Oh, I believe that if I have a severe mind change and just like get myself through a few more sessions of therapy, I can convince myself I can do that, and maybe by then I'll actually have started doing it.
Would you like one more piece of therapy advice? This is what
Oh,
freelancing.
always.
So this is what I learned as a freelancer. I said this actually on Facebook today. I wanted to change and become the person I want to become. That requires me to honestly look at the things I have tolerated in this world to this point and ask myself, do I need these things anymore? And if not, to let them go.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's it. That's actually a good question too. What do you think is
What do
going
you
to go
think is
wrong?
wrong?
Right. And even if something does go wrong, another question, I mean, why can't you course correct?
I feel like if I've had a lot of problems with depression, with PTSD, etc., and my mindset for literally a decade was that yes, I can go a little bit off path, but I will never be sure of how far I am off path until I can't get back. And that's my major concern when I think about anything that I try to do that isn't a certain win for me. And I want
So
to leave that person behind, but it, like I said, takes a lot of therapy.
what are you going back to? Honest question. What are you trying to go back to?
Honestly, the kind of the person I was from 2012 to 2015, where I knew that I had a story that I wanted to get into the world. And all I did for those 3 years was to make sure that I got it into the best possible shape I could. And I found a publisher for it.
Why can't you do that now?
I can. I just need to break up with the BS.
Okay.
I have a lot
So
of cognitive distortions, which is kind of the all or nothing thinking that you were describing before.
yeah. Well, I okay. What is okay? And here, I guess I'll ask this. I'll ask it like this: what would be wrong if you got lost?
If I got lost, I wouldn't have a frame of reference for where I could be found.
Is that a bad thing?
It
And
would be
why?
a very nerve wracking thing for me.
Sure would. Change always is.
Yeah.
But would that necessarily be a bad thing? And I'm asking it like this for this reason. You are clinging to something. I don't know exactly what you're clinging to, but you're clinging to something. At some point, you have to let it go. To become my 13th rule, it's actually a cliche. Basically, it's a good rule. It's rule 13. At any moment, to become who you want to become, you have to let go of who you are.
Hmm.
Because there comes a point in every journey that the things you did to get to this point do not work anymore. And you have to change. And it's scary. Like, look, I'm freelancing right now. I've hit a decent point with my freelancing career, but I mean, I'm still going through the ups and downs. But I'm going more up than down. Doesn't mean I don't have those moments, but you know what I mean. Like it's been more of an upward path than a downward one. Well, at some point, what if I plateau? Then I have to do something different. Right? I have to do something different if I plateau, because eventually it's going to go down again.
Hmm.
And something I've clung to, I may have to let go to get to that next level. Right? So, whatever it is for you, that familiar thing that you're clinging to, this might be the heart. And you don't have to ask, you do not have to answer this to me. It's not me to answer. It's yours to answer. That thing you're clinging to, do you really need it? Or is it much like Linus's blanket, just something he uses to comfort himself? And if it's Linus's blanket, when will you discard the blanket? Linus didn't need his blanket. That was the whole joke.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that realized it the most, ironically, was Snoopy. Snoopy would come up and like grabbed it and yank him, chuck him with the I love that. Yeah, it was one of my favorite. It's always one of my favorite little like Peanuts things, right? Is he would come in, he would just chuck him. But see, that's right. There's always a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it goes beyond that. This is just something in you you're comfortable with. But by the way, I'm going to make this very clear too. It's okay to be comfortable to a point. To a point. My 8th rule is stay uncomfortable, by the way. So it's okay to be comfortable. But is the comfort giving you a benefit or is it holding you back?
Mm.
Because if it's holding you back, then you got to be very honest about that, what that is. And if you don't, if it's more holding you back, then what would be so bad about letting it go and getting lost and going into and becoming that new person? You're never going to be the person you were in 2012 to 2015. You're a different Kaki Olson. But that's not a bad thing either. You're wiser, you're smarter, hopefully tougher. You got more muscles on your muscles, right? And I mean, some things haven't changed. Like I said, you always hate the Yankees, and I'm going to just go back to that joke every time, right? But you are you, and you're who you are now. And there's good with it, and there's bad with that compared to then. Hopefully, you're better. I like to believe you're a better person, right? So I'm going to just
One would hope.
One would hope. One would hope. So my whole thing with you is then embrace the person you are. And if there are things you like about that older version of you, well, what did you like about that older version of you? Just let
I was
yourself
kind of endlessly optimistic.
see. Optimism is my default setting.
That's where you and I are very different.
See, I think I don't know what realistic is because I don't know how real the world, what real is in this world. And cynicism, I think, is for suckers. So,
Coasters.
what?
Cynicism is also for East Coasters.
But the thing is, cynicism numbs you. It protects you from being hurt. But the price is you close doors to opportunities that are sometimes right in front of you as a result of your cynicism, because your cynicism will not let you see it. Now, the problem with being an optimist is sometimes you're a sucker. Listen, I've done my fair share of I'm a lollipop, oh, la, 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 la. I've done it. I've been a sucker more than one occasion in my life. I'm okay being the fool. But I would rather try and believe that it is possible, because sometimes, then you're talking to a guy that accidentally got published. So I mean, it's not. I embrace just doing and seeing what happens. And you must do the same. And don't let your cynicism tell you, oh, it works. Like, oh, fuck you, cynicism. What do you know? Right? You're just trying not to be disappointed too much because you don't want to overbelieve in if you can let go of the expectations of where you think this might lead and just let yourself go there. Cynicism won't let you go there. That's why I don't like cynicism. I think it's useless for that. For that reason, this is why I think cynicism is ultimately useless. Optimism is my default, not because I'm not aware of how mean and nasty the world can be, but because I think I always believe we can overcome. Making you think?
Okay, so yeah, definitely making me think. Like, I feel like I need to have a vision board now, or possibly just a Google Doc.
Yeah, whatever you need. Doesn't, like, it's about you, not me on this one. Like me, I already know what I want, right?
Yeah.
If you hear shotguns from behind the ice cream truck, it's because I did it in the wrong state. Listen, man, if I fake being in the ice cream truck, like seriously, there are states I get shot at, and I would deserve it. Honest to God, I would totally deserve it. Right? Listen, I take my ice cream seriously. I took one of my roommates out for ice cream yesterday. She had the good graces to play me rummy, and I took her out for ice cream afterwards. And I was just like, you know what? Nobody argues with ice cream. So if I were to falsely advertise ice cream and I didn't deliver, if someone decided that they wanted to take a shot at me for it, I totally would get it. In all fairness, I understand. Right. I do. But the thing is, I have a vision of where I want to go. And everything I've been doing for the last year has been to get me there.
Hmm.
And it's taking longer than I thought it would. But so what? So what? I'm still going to get there.
Tangential to the ice cream thing, one of the things I know I am is someone who makes running jokes of the oddest things, and one of them in a current story is that everything is fixed with ice cream. And it's now become a running joke among the readers that the entire story can be summed up as turning points and banana splits.
Is that a bad thing?
There's absolutely not. We've kind of taken it on as a slogan.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Hey, listen, Catherine Ann Olson, banana split author. It works. I can see it.
Well, it amuses my friends who know that I basically hate bananas except for banana splits and banana bread.
I make a mean banana bread. I do. I do. So I nearly killed my dad once. So I'll tell you this story. It's funny. So the first time, my home ec class, my first assignment was to make chocolate chip cookies.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm only going to take 50% of the blame here because I did put the ingredients in, but I actually had a chef there because I was because again, this was my first one. So that the teaspoon, tablespoon thing was still a little messing with my head a little bit. And I was 14. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Anyway, I go to him. Hey, is it teaspoon or tablespoon? Baking soda. I still remember this to this day. This tells you how good this was. So he goes, tablespoon. Well, I put a tablespoon of baking soda. It was actually a teaspoon.
Yeah.
Now, baking is a precise science. It's not cooking. You can bullshit with cooking. You don't need the perfect ingredient amount in cooking. There's certain fundamentals in cooking, but by and large, you can play.
Yes, but baking requires the chemistry to work.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to say that the oven mutated into like this blob monster of like, my dad, bless his heart, tried a cookie. Bless his heart. He bent over. My dad's a strong man. He bent over. He bought a Coke that night. He does not drink Coke ever. He bought one that night. So let's flip this out. So the chef's wife taught me how to actually bake well. So we got dad good. So I remember this. So the chef goes to my dad on the phone. Hey, would you like to talk to the guy who's making the banana bread you're taking home tonight? He's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll talk. Hey, Dad. Wait, what? Yeah, I made the bread. She comes in with this like giant ass thing of Coke. Right. Comes in with this giant ass thing of Coke. I remember this, but he devoured that banana bread. He devoured it. Right. You know, baking. I haven't had it. I could have done it here, but honestly, I haven't done it in a few years. I kind of would have to start from scratch all over again. So I think in some ways, some things you always remember, but some things I have to get a cookbook and play with things a little bit again. But it was fun because it does have a fun side to it. But you got to have the math and the fundamentals down before you get to the really, really good stuff. But once you get the fundamentals down, man, you can do some really cool shit with baking. I knew there was a friend of mine based out of Newfoundland. It's a pastry chef. She's fantastic at what she does. Like awesome. All of which to say that the whole point is like good food, fun food solves a lot of things. Right? And never underestimate the power of a good banana split or a great banana bread. Did you enjoy that?
Well, I will tell you my tragedy of banana bread, which was 8th grade. We were doing a school fundraiser and we did these gift baskets that we would sell. And I was in charge of mixing the batter for this one batch of banana bread. And I put in everything correctly. Then I had to leave for an orthodontist appointment. Told my teacher I was leaving. The teacher then decided to add a couple of ingredients that she thought I had left out, which made all of the banana bread for that particular batch explode in the oven. Like, it was completely fine when I left.
Sounds like your teacher was a mad scientist.
A little bit. On the other hand, the Coke thing reminded me of the time that my mother could not read German and accidentally bought me a beer.
How old were you? No, seriously, how old were you?
I was 37, but the thing is, my mother
Okay.
and I are both lifelong members of our church.
Oh no, I get. I'm slightly more European, and right, like I've had access to booze since I was like 4. So
Well,
yeah.
so I mean, both of us, I think I've had a drink once at a wedding when they told me it was something else. I've had accidental spiked punch once when I was like 14, and then 23 years later, my mother was looking for lemonade, saw that there were lemons on the label, didn't read the word that said beer, and bought me a beer. She had drunk 3/4 of hers when I was like, "Mom, this is not lemonade."
And she's like, "What are you talking about? It's fantastic."
She's like, "This shows you lemons," and I'm like, "Yes, and this word means beer." So now it's kind of the family infamy story about Mom buying me drinks when we were in Austria.
Your mom was an enabler. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
There are worse things that she could have done. I mean, for example, she and I are the diehard Red Sox fans in the family.
It's okay. It's okay. So, okay, I'm more. This is more curiosity than anything else.
Yeah.
So, because some Mormons are okay with some of this, not others. So, coffee, no, yes,
No.
no coffee. So you're okay. So you're all the way in. Okay, so.
Well, I mean, I go by the very specific guidelines that are set up in the doctrine.
No, it's fair. No, it's totally fair.
There's the thing. So a lot of Mormons, they have no problem with, I don't ever have coffee, or if I do have coffee, I have decaf. A lot of people do that. I personally do not. What they are diehard weird about is having caffeine in their soda.
Yes.
So when I went to BYU, which is a church-run school, they literally would not sell caffeinated sodas on campus. I had to leave campus, go to Subway, get a Mountain Dew just to get my caffeine fix. Now they're more progressive, and they actually sell things like Coke and Mountain Dew and things like that. But it took so many years to actually find a place where I could get it on campus.
No, that's fair. That's totally fair. No, I've seen it. My favorite story from when I lived in the Mormon community was the time I played a church thing, baseball. So this is what happened, right? So first time I go out, it's like, okay, I'm playing baseball. I'm going up to bat. I suck at baseball. To be perfectly clear, I am terrible at it. Right. So first pitch comes by, I let it go across the plate. I just let it go. It's like, I'm trying to get comfortable. Like I again, me, baseball, I suck. I suck. Strike 2. Go to the umpire. What happened to strike 1? There was no strike 1. They lied. Right? So the second pitch. This is where I wasn't allowed to play baseball anymore. I did a foul ball. A foul ball. It wasn't strike 3, it was foul ball. And I said, shit. And everybody around went. So the umpire is like the preacher. He wasn't happy with me.
No, I couldn't.
And so I decided that I wasn't going to be cut out for this, and I was good with it. For all my joking, it was a fascinating experience living in a community like that for 2 years, because I got to see, it made me a lot more tolerant of things, ironically enough. When I came back, I realized that there were certain things I just didn't need to worry about with people, and it's made me looser about some things, right? Just like, you know what, you do you, I'm good, right? Whereas before I was a little bit more, I had more of a stick up my ass. I probably did squeak a little bit when I walked, but it's okay. it's okay, right?
So I'm curious which town in northern Arizona you lived in, because
Snowflake, Arizona.
The one named after Elder Snow and Elder Flake. I have friends from there.
Yeah, okay, that's where the name comes from. I always wondered that.
Yeah, one of my good friends is at Flake.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. I learned a new lesson there. So Snowflake it's adjacent to the town of Taylor, And it's the first time I've ever seen this, where in the middle of the city there's a farm. First time I've ever seen that in my life. It was cool. Like, I went through my darkest times there, but it was a good lesson. It's a good lesson for me. So that's kind of where it was, and coming out of it, it's never going to be my thing, but at the same time, a lot of good people helped me there, and years later I realized how much. And at the same token, it's made me a bit more, it's made me oddly more tolerant of people. That between that and this podcast, it's taught me a lot about tolerance in the world, and the fact that people have different ideas about how the world works, and it's okay.
Well, that's kind of one of the things that I'm looking forward to with this move is, I mean, like I said, Utah has been a good place to live. It's had very good experiences with me in some of the things, but I need to go to a place where I have to kind of experience things for the first time.
No, and I hope you have a blast.
Yeah.
I have a blast. It sounds good. I think we have an interview here, Miss Catherine. What do you think?
I think it's been good.
So you feel better? You feel good?
Yeah. You're like, I did not think I would have to talk this girl through her insecurities for an hour and a half, or however long it is. No, hour.
To be honest, I'll tell you this. Like, I've done nearly 1,000 episodes of this. Like, I'm literally not including all the other stuff I've done. I deal with it a lot. Like, I like a lot. It's a lot of the insecurities we all have are not that different, honestly. We're more alike than we're different.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I realize is, like, all the insecurities you're struggling with, other people are doing the exact same thing, right? And that's what that is. I think a big part of life is understanding who you are and who you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just learned kind of doing this. I just learned doing this, that I've just heard. I know the story, right? Because I've seen it so many times, and even my own story, right? Everything we do is a reflection of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast is a reflection of me too, and what it's taught me, again, I meet different versions of people that are trying to do the same thing I'm doing, right? So that's the thing. So yeah, like, don't feel bad. It's like it's part of the talk, and hell, I've needed it too. Don't like that. There are people I go to as well.
And we're very thankful to YS Books for being the kind of voice of reason at times for me.
So YS Books, you rock.
Yep.
There are. So what would you like to promote?
Sorry, what?
What would you like to promote?
Well, actually, I would like to promote my own podcast, which is coming up on 150 episodes.
Congrats.
If people are out there who like Tolkien or like literature discussions, or just like listening to people who occasionally burst into both Hamilton and Sound of Music, and talk about lots of depressed hobbits, we're the podcast for you. We're A Sacred Fellowship. We read all of the books with philosophical themes in mind.
Do you have a website for that?
Yes. It's asacredfellowship.com.
How do you spell that? I'm sorry.
ASACREDFELLOWSHIP.com.
Well, hold on. Let's see if I got this. Let's see if I got it. Get it? Did I get
may
it?
have to. We're sometimes having issues with the text, so it depends on.
Did I get it?
Yes. That is how you spell it.
That is wonderful. They gave me an award for this.
Sorry, what?
They gave me an award for this.
Yay.
Yay! Woot! So, ladies and gentlemen, go to the I hope I get it, the ASACRedFellowship.com if you want to listen to great Okay. Oh, okay.
You can also find it a lot easier on like Apple Podcasts or like Spotify or Amazon or where
it's on all the apps. Okay, so it's on all the apps. So go check it out. Catherine talks about really cool books and probably sounds smarter than I do. And at 150 episodes, honest to God, that's a feat in of itself. Congratulations on it.
Thank you.
One last thing before I disappear. What's been your favorite episode, if you don't mind my asking?
Of which one?
Of yours.
Let me find the number for it. I can tell you which episode it was in terms of the chapter. Just for reference, if you've read the Lord of the Rings books, this is the chapter or the episode where we discussed the last chapter of the second book. And it's when Sam has the greatest cliffhanger of an ending of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm like looking at our list.
It's okay. It's okay. They're gonna give you an award for this now too. You know, so I'm just letting you know.
And you can probably hear my roommate slightly in the background.
It's all good. I've had roommates in the background here too.
It is episode 66.
Episode 66. Okay. So the cliffhanger with Samwise, I believe I think it's the Trials of Samwise Gamgee is the name of the chapter.
The choices of the Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah, right. Okay, the choices. I almost remembered. So the choices of Samwise Gamgee, courtesy of these guys right here. Go check them out right now. If you love Tolkien, this is their thing. You know, I should bring this up. Have you seen the new Magic the Gathering set?
I have not. I've seen the ads for it, but I haven't gotten it. I don't know if it's out yet.
It is out. I've played against the Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, yes.
I've played against them. They are formidable. They are truly formidable. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/justjustingpodcast. If you want to know where the show is going in the future, you can check it out right now. On there right now, there are 4 episodes, plus my novel, Corey the Night Witch. You can definitely check that out right now if you're listening to this. And that will do it, ladies and gentlemen. I will be back next week sometime, I think. But until then, folks, for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next time.